Welcome back to the Birdhouse Dynasty Show. Today we've got running backs and tight end values. We're going to be talking with Matt English. He's back on the set here after a little hiatus with some trouble down in Houston, but he's back and ready to go today. How you doing today, Matt?
Oh, doing well, Chris. Glad to actually be able to get on and talk a little fantasy. It's been a rough, we'll just say a rough couple of weeks down here. Weather hasn't been fun. And, when you lose power for over a week and no internet, I can handle no internet, but the power grid
That's
stuff,
rough.
that was tough. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. I've had phone troubles this week. So, yeah, it just takes you back to a time. I mean, think about it. 25 years ago, barely any of us even had cell phones. And I don't know how we operated even. It's just amazing. So, but yeah, we're back in. It's training camp mode in the NFL. We've got the Hall of Fame game coming up with your Houston Texans taking on the Chicago Bears. You guys finally get a Hall of Fame inductee, Andre Johnson. Tell me your favorite Andre Johnson moment, Matt.
Well, I don't really have one. Okay.
That's understandable because he was just so darn consistent. I can't even think of a play where I'm like, yeah, that's what made Andre Johnson a Hall of Famer. The guy was just so consistent, even going back to his Miami days. I mean, you could tell right away coming in from college that the guy was going to be a stud. He was part of that just monster Miami Hurricanes team.
Yeah.
Yes. From 2000 or 2001, was it? Where they were trying to go back to back and lost to Ohio State. But that team was just so stacked with NFL talent. And Andre Johnson was probably the top talent on that roster. I mean, there was Ed Reed, a couple other studs. I mean, all around. And then, of course, they were led by Ken Dorsey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, Ken Dorsey.
But hey.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I'll put this out first and foremost. Yes, I'm wearing a Texans hat, and I do cheer for the Texans. I live here in Houston, but I am always a Saints fan first. I was born and raised,
that's a shame,
to some extent, in Louisiana, in New Orleans specifically. So I am a Saints fan. Now, I have watched the Oilers / Texans since a young age when we moved out to Houston. That being said, I'm just being honest here so no one gives me crap later, okay? I have become more of a Texans fan since last year's draft. Or actually 2 years ago, they drafted Dameon Pierce, which he's a Gator, and so I really liked that. Yeah. But last year, they started to make it a lot easier to cheer for him, which is why I'm more bought in now, okay? But I am a Saints fan first. That's why I have no favorite Andre Johnson moment. So...
hey, that's all good. I know there's hard to come up with any good Saints moments right now. So
right now, yes.
But we'll dominate the division for a little bit longer here with Baker Mayfield now.
Well, we'll get to see if it's Canales or Dave Canales' offense and his play calling, or was it, did he really revamp Baker and Baker's legitimately going to be a good starter in the NFL? And keep the Bucs moving?
It is a very, very good question for this season. I obviously, as a Tampa fan, I am hoping that it's the latter and not just Dave Canales. But offensive coordinator switches. I talked about it earlier this offseason when you're not the team taking on the guy that you are going out there to get. When you're just settling for somebody that you got to bring in to kind of fix the hole, it's tough to maintain that same offensive production.
Right.
So I do definitely expect the Panthers to rise this year, but it's hard to not because they were so bad last year. But I'm just saying, I'd be extremely happy if Tampa could do what they did last year offensively. And I don't know. I like the Rams offense. That's the offensive coordinator. That's what system he's coming from. So I do like the prospect there with Godwin potentially getting more targets in the slot and all of that narrative that's going on right now. But anyway, that's one burning question. I have 3 burning questions from the Birdman for you, Matt.
All right.
Before we get into the running backs. So number 1. If you, for your fantasy purposes, could have the stats for the 2024 season of one player, who would that player be?
One player, man. There's a couple of receivers I'd be curious about. There's a couple of running backs. I'll
tell you mine in a second, but I'll
sure. So first. I would probably want to pick somebody that I'm heavily invested in.
Sure.
And so I guess, you know what, there's a lot of talk as to this receiving room. I'd be very curious to know what Tank Dell's stats are going to be ahead of time. I would like to know that. Now with the addition of Diggs, it does put more question marks into the equation for all 3 receivers. And I have a lot of shares of Tank Dell. So
yes, you do.
So yeah, I would like to know that. Actually, the
most
only
of the time
I don't have a share of is Diggs. So
okay,
and that includes
most of the time people go with the quarterback, but of course in Houston, we all pretty much know Stroud is going to put up X amount of stats. But the big question is, which of the 3 wide receivers is going to benefit from that, or do they all just end up equal? So yeah, with Tank Dell having that, he averaged more per game than Nico last year. So does he continue that? Does Diggs just come in and assume sort of an Antonio Brown type role? That's where I am on the situation. I think that, Nico and Tank are going to be the Mike Evans and Chris Godwin of that offense. And then Stephon Diggs will just get what's left over. And he'll have a few big games like Antonio Brown did for Tampa when he latched on to the Tom Brady era there. And then, of course, it ended not well. But
in Antonio Brown fashion, that's how it ended.
Hopefully for you guys and Stephon Diggs, it does end better. And you have a Lombardi trophy to hoist one of these upcoming seasons. Yeah. But all right. So
6 to 8 targets a game is what he'll look at. And then Tank and Nico should be getting 10 to 12. Something like that. I feel like Tank's the guy, man. I just do, and I'd love to know ahead of time. So
yeah. Anyway, so I'm surprised because I thought you would have gone with Jaden Daniels, but
I already know those stats.
You are so heavy, but you already know he's gonna smash.
Yeah. I mean, like 3,800 yards in the air, 3,800 to 4,000 yards in the air, and maybe 750-ish rush yards. 30 total touchdowns. Yeah. I feel like that's
I think the passing volume is about right. I think those numbers will be there for sure for Jaden. And I think the key is the rushing.
Yeah.
Because he could definitely get more than 750 yards rushing.
I don't want to exaggerate it too much. I mean,
you don't want to exaggerate it, right?
With his legs as fast as he is, he could get to 1,000. It's his rookie year. So let's temper. He's got to get used to it. So
yeah,
I digress.
Okay, so my answer for that is easy. It's Will Levis. I'm invested in Will Levis in a few leagues, and also more so even after that, I have plenty of shares of Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins, Tony Pollard. I do not have any Tajay Spears, so I'm kind of just betting on the Tony Pollard side. It's more so because of Tajay Spears, where he was being drafted. I ended up grabbing Ezekiel Elliott a little bit earlier, and that's really what happened there. And I'm fine with it because I'm loving Zeke for this particular season. I think that he's gonna get plenty of volume in a good offense, and I just don't see it for Rico Dowdle, I guess.
Is this Zeke's farewell tour?
Oh,
You know, he's
absolutely.
a Cowboy
But
again.
Jerry loves Zeke. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, he didn't want to get rid of him last year. It just was a money thing
Mhm.
last season,
Which
and
is
now he got
business.
him back for cheap.
Yeah.
So I I have a lot of eggs in the Zeke basket, cheap
Yeah,
eggs,
sure.
but the 99
Eggs
cent
nonetheless.
eggs. Yes. All right. Okay, so that was our first question. Second burning question I have is who will eventually supplant Josh Allen and or Patrick Mahomes as the QB1 in Dynasty? Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen have gone back and forth atop of our Dynasty rankings for the past 3+ seasons. Either one of them has been the QB1. Now, Jalen Hurts did it for maybe a month there when he had that awesome season 2 years ago, but it didn't sustain, and now he's settled in below Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Who will be the guy that will stay above those two and stay there for at least a year and then going forward, in your
Okay.
opinion, Matt?
So it's going to take some time for, a new name just to get up there, especially the names I'm going to pull from here, because it's not going to be like a Jalen Hurts or Lamar. It's going to be a young guy, I think,
Yeah.
maybe it's someone that's not even in the league yet. But if I'm looking at someone
Arch Manning.
supplant, there you go. If I'm looking for someone to supplant them during this year and then keep it through the off season,
Okay.
I'd be looking at I don't know, maybe Anthony Richardson. If he can stay healthy.
I would agree with that. He would be,
question.
if he comes out and smashes, just rocks it in September, I could see the hype build up, and he's staying healthy. He hasn't had any effects from that shoulder injury. He's throwing the ball decent, and of course, he's rushing. The rushing ability's got to be there, and on top of that, the Colts have to be doing well, because you look at Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, their team's success has a lot to do with them being up top there.
Yeah.
And so I think you have to look at that as well. I kind of look, and I know I'm in Packerland here, and he just signed a monster contract last evening, but I see Jordan Love maybe could be. I just don't know if he has the rushing upside to do it, but he doesn't run really any less than Patrick Mahomes. So
right, I mean, if you're talking about taking down Josh Allen, yeah, you got to have the rushing upside. But Mahomes plays around up there, and whereas we all know he has the wheels to have that rushing upside, he doesn't necessarily utilize those, or it's not called upon to, like some of these other guys we've mentioned. So it's very possible to do it. I mean, look at and this is why I think Anthony Richardson can do it. CJ Stroud's another one. It's just because they already have so much hype. But Stroud actually did it for a full year. Richardson did it for 2 full games and then a couple of, appearances in those other 2 games that he was in. But like the hype train's got him in like the top 7-8 quarterbacks right now, and he's only played 2 games,
right.
2 full games. So if he, like I said, if he stays healthy and he's putting up those, I think in the 4th game last year when he exited for the year, I think I was looking at him on the fantasy side, and he was sitting at 20 points.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't even have 100 yards passing yet.
Right.
I mean,
and it was in the second quarter of the game, right?
Yeah, he had 2 rushing touchdowns and about 50 yards. Man, you got a guy that can be at 20 points without breaking 100 yards passing. I mean, look, he's got the ability to do it. They have the weapons. I think having a healthy Jonathan Taylor there and Anthony Richardson, they only help each other. I think it's dangerous, man. If he stays healthy, he's going to be dangerous.
Yes, I've definitely grabbed my shares of A-Rich in some underdog drafts so far this offseason. Now, the last burning question I have for you is sort of a geriatric old timer question here. So Larry Fitzgerald in the year 2015, I believe it was, put up 700 yards and only 2 touchdowns in his year 31 season.
Mhm.
Now, the next 3 years, he went on to put up over 100 catches, over 1,000 yards, and over 6 touchdowns in each of those next 3 seasons. So from the ages 32, 33, and 34, he was just a monster. Now, he wasn't maybe as consistent as he had been earlier in his career, but he still was definitely way better than anybody was projecting. They all thought he was dead in the water when he had that age 31 season. So,
Mhm.
yeah, of these guys, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, or Cooper Kupp, who could potentially put up 3 monster seasons going forward?
So, I mean, I think that's a easy answer for me. But before I give it to you, I'll tell you why. And it's really, you look at the way Larry Fitzgerald played, how he was used in their formation, in their play designs. Where was he in the first look percentage, all that kind of stuff. But Larry played all over the field. I mean, he lined up everywhere. And so for that, I got to look at someone like a Keenan Allen or a Cooper Kupp because they simply can line up at every position. They're that good and that's smart and versatile to be able to do it. And so, yeah, I would. I would probably leave more Keenan Allen.
Okay. I totally understand the Keenan Allen answer. I'm rooting for my boy to do it, but he's got a he's got a equal Jerry Rice's record of 1,000-yard seasons in order to do that, and that's steep territory. I love Mike Evans, but man, when you getting up into Jerry Rice territory, I don't know. Keenan Allen absolutely is phenomenal, all around wide receiver, and I'd be willing to guess even if he has a bad season here this year in Chicago, he could go somewhere else next year and still have 2 to 3 good seasons. Just the way he plays, I see Keenan Allen somebody that he could play till age 35 and be productive just that way.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, I would anybody who has shares of Keenan Allen, I mean, strap in because it might not be the best season for him. I think he's
Right.
of the 3 receivers they have there. A lot of people thought that was going to hurt Rome Odunze. I think it really hurts Keenan Allen because I think Rome's got the chemistry already with Caleb. Pre-draft, they were hanging out and throwing the ball around. DJ Moore's been there. He's more established. And then I don't think Keenan Allen buys into the whole Caleb train either. So
Yeah. He just doesn't seem like the right fit for the way Caleb Williams.
I think he'll find himself a new home next year where he might have this might be the start of the whole equation that we just referred to with Larry Fitzgerald. This might be the down year. Yeah. And then he's got 2 to 3 more good years right behind it. Mm-hmm.
Yep. I could see it. He just needs the right pocket passer and it could happen. So, all right, let's get into our running back tight end values. And we're talking in terms of dynasty, but I am going to bring up a recent redraft that I was a part of. It was a 12-team Superflex redraft. We had 12 teams, 20 rounds only because it was a redraft. And I was picking in the 8 hole. And so I'm going to bring it up here. Let's see.
So 20, how many starters do you have? Is it 11?
We have,
so
let me bring it up here. There we go. All right. So we are starting. Now we made this, we called this the extreme redraft because we threw in all sorts of bonus points like crazy for 40-yard catches, 50-yard catches, then 40-yard touchdowns, 50-yard touchdowns. I mean, there's just an insane amount of bonuses. Tight end premium is a full point. Running backs are getting a half a point extra for reception. First downs get a full point. We're just, quarterbacks get 0.25 for a throwing first down. There's just an insane amount of points here. Like we're all projected over 200 points. And our starting lineup is the 1 quarterback and a super flex, 2 running backs, 3 wideouts, and then 3 flexes. So you could start up to, if you're just doing wide receivers in the flexes, you could start up to 6 wide receivers.
Okay. So you're starting
So
10.
12, 11. 11. Let me think. 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3, 6, 3 flexes, tight end.
Oh yeah.
I guess that is 10. No, and the super flex. It's 11.
And the super
It's 11. Plus we got a kicker. Plus we got a kicker and a defense, of course, because it's redraft. But
so start 12. Okay, so okay, very good. Let's dive in.
all right.
Plus, I love the points. Love the points in redraft. I mean, you got to start your team over every year in that. I think it's fun to have, crazy points thrown around in there. You just got to know what your point systems are before you actually execute your draft and draft accordingly. Yep.
Yes. And that's why, as you'll see, I went with, so I did grab Derrick Henry in the 4th round because it was a redraft. I was in the 8 hole and got Lamar in the 1st round. So I wanted to capitalize on all of the Baltimore rushing touchdowns by grabbing Henry there. But after that, all of my running backs later on, starting with Jalen Warren, they were all receiving running backs. So that's where, let me see if I can move down here on this board. Let's bring it down here a little bit. Yeah, so later on you can see I grabbed Jalen Warren, Chase Brown, Blake Corum, J.K. Dobbins, Tyson Chandler, and Jaleel McLaughlin. All right. So if we're talking values in the middle of rounds, like rounds 4 through 10, let's start with you, Matt, because I already know a couple of your favorites in this range, but explain why you see them. Like, for instance, Jonathan Brooks is somebody I know that you were all over in trying to acquire in our dynasty drafts this offseason. Why your philosophy, though? Why those running backs in rounds 4 or 5 through round 10, like Jonathan Brooks? Your volume, Matt. Your volume.
There we go. Sorry about that.
There we go. There we go. Okay, Brooks, so go back. Why Jonathan Brooks and maybe a couple others that you like in that range?
Yeah, so with Jonathan Brooks specifically, I see that you got pretty much, from what I'm used to seeing, a 2 to 3 round discount on him, which is fantastic. But he's got a 3-down skill set, and we saw that at Texas pre-ACL. Now, he still hasn't been cleared to come back in the camp yet. That said, I think most of us in the fantasy community understood what was ahead of him. But I think he's more of a lottery ticket this year for Carolina, in that he'll be okay, and maybe they work him in slowly, especially since he's not even in camp yet. Work him in slowly, but those last 8-9 games of the season at that halfway point, whatever, about 8 games left, man, if he shows what he did at Texas, Carolina, with Canales' tendencies to want to pound the football, he's just going to be a great bet. He's got a 3-down skill set. He does have passing upside or pass catching upside, and he's going to have volume. So, and he's a rookie, so you can get it's all baked into his price, I think. And you get a good running back there later in the draft. I'm one of those people that hits the 0 running back strategy a lot. And so I'm always looking for guys. Doesn't matter if they're in a timeshare. It's do they have the passing upside? I know you mentioned that with like Jalen Warren, Chase Brown, those guys. And I actually love this territory. In fact, I like going into, even a couple later rounds to find some of those younger running backs with the passing upside. Let's see, who am I trying to think? Kendry Miller's one that could be, if he can stay healthy, that I like in that. Well, he's a little bit late, being honest. But let's see. Tajay Spears is one. You might be able to get him a little bit later than the 10th round in redraft. But
sure. Jerome Ford, Zach Charbonnet, they all kind of fit that mold where, I mean, Jerome Ford, if Chubb is out the first 6 games, I know that they brought in Dante Foreman, who may get to work on first and second down, but Jerome Ford scored extremely well last season in sort of 50-50 split role somehow for Cleveland last year. So he's probably going to be in the same kind of role this year. And he went down here in round 12. So that's a steal, in my opinion.
How about
some other White? Guys you got down
Zamir
here?
White's one, right?
What's that?
Zamir White?
Zamir White went. Yeah, he went a little earlier. He was up in round 9, which wasn't too crazy of a price because of, again,
not for the type of return you can get, right?
Yeah, he's going to be getting the volume at least to start with. Now, I don't know how much the Raiders are going to actually be running the ball because I don't know how much they'll be in the lead come the second half. But they did look good under Antonio Pierce as a head coach the last half of last season. So you never know. I mean, with Harbaugh in the division, you might see a little bit of a change in the AFC West. I know it's hard to envision Andy Reid and the Chiefs not dominating that division again, but with Harbaugh and Pierce there, I don't know. I mean, the Raiders still just have much to celebrate at quarterback, so I don't know if the Raiders are really something I buy into. I haven't really bought into any Zamir White's. He fits the profile, to me at least, of somebody that you want to trade away for whatever you can get right now while he's being propped up. Think back to the Mike Davis's that were, he went from having a season in Carolina and then went to Atlanta and was supposed to be the guy there. I just didn't buy it. And I kind of see the same thing with Zamir White. I don't know. I've been trying to shop the one share that I have of him, I guess.
Yeah, I've actually turned down a couple of offers for Zamir White. I just look at it as in that area, the value you get out of that, because like you mentioned, he is being propped up right now. So if you can get him at a later round value and then trade him for something that's much better for your team specifically or a better value, then go for it. Here's an interesting one, and he has no pass catching upside. Okay.
Yeah.
Now this is last year's numbers, but I'm just going to give you the numbers.
Okay.
He had 198 attempts. I love that volume.
Yeah.
810 yards, 4.1 per carry average, right? 13 touchdowns. 180 yards receiving. Would you like to have that guy if you could get him late in the draft, like 10th round and beyond, late? 810 rushing yards, 13 touchdowns, and then throw in 180 pass catching yards. So roughly 1,000.
Yeah, yards. I mean that's a great steal on production if you're getting that around 10 or later. And who was that? Gus Edwards?
You got it. And look, it's not like he's going. I know he changed teams, but he's still going to have Greg Roman calling the plays. He's in the same offense that we know they're going to be running at a minimum 60 to 40% clip. So a 60% run, 40% pass. Sorry. So it's I am happy to take. I like drafting young guys. I like youth, but Gus Edwards is one of those exceptions where if I'm getting the right price on him, oh my gosh, it just makes so much sense.
Right. No, as long as Gus is healthy, I think that he definitely will bang some in for the Chargers. Right now, he's not healthy. He's starting out. I don't know that he's on their training camp pup list, but
I think he just cleared, didn't he, yesterday?
Okay, maybe they have Dobbins running ones as well as Jared Patterson. They brought in.
Yeah,
he's
I saw that. But Gus finished 14th amongst all
you can't deny that
Yeah.
production. Now, whether or not he'll get 13 touchdowns again, that's yet to be seen. Because that helped prop him up definitely.
Oh,
He's 29 years old. So again, though, I mean, J.K. Dobbins is no model of health right now, and so everything is looking good, and that's why I grabbed him down in round 15 because I just see, I know that J.K. Dobbins had the talent. I don't know if he still has that with all the injuries that he's incurred, but
he seems to think he does. So I guess that's all that matters. I mean, look, like you mentioned, we're going to have Baltimore's rushing touchdowns, right, in this league. I tried to do the same thing with the Chargers backfield. I took Gus in our ball. So
in our best ball.
Yeah. So it's there's certain situations where you can and probably should do that if you can, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it just goes into following the offensive coordinator's tendencies. I mean, it's like clockwork. Greg Roman isn't all of a sudden going to become Mike Martz here, right? So, I mean, the guy's still going to run the ball. Now, granted, Justin Herbert is a better quarterback, better arm than any quarterback that Roman and Harbaugh have ever had. So, I do think that Herbert has become a value in pretty much all formats because of this narrative that they're going to run the ball over 50% of the time. I mean, and on top of that, the same can be said then for, Josh Palmer, Ladd McConkey, and even I grabbed DJ Chark at the end of a underdog draft last week because I got Justin Herbert super late. Like it was 2 rounds after ADP, and I'm like, I can't let him fall any farther. So I took Herbert, and then with my last 2 picks, I stacked him up with DJ Chark and Hayden Hurst.
Oh wow!
So it's ugly, but I mean, Herbert's still got to throw the ball 500 times at least, right? Somebody's got to get those targets. And if the Chargers are not steamrolling teams in the second half of games, they're going to be throwing it. I mean, Herbert is a guy who's consistently thrown the ball 40 plus times a game. So, I mean, I don't know. I like Palmer, and I don't know if I love Ladd McConkey. I like Palmer because he's been there, and he always produced whenever Keenan Allen or Michael Williams was injured. He always put up decent numbers. So I think he's kind of a sneaky steal later on right now.
Yeah, but he could be another one of those league winners that you just happen to grab late in a draft.
Right.
I mean, capital guy that ends up winning you your league. Yep.
Yeah. If he gets to 1,000 yards and 6 or 7 touchdowns, I mean, that's a huge steal where he's going.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. So one running back room we didn't talk about was the Arizona Cardinals. Now, that room has James Conner and, of course, the rookie Trey Benson. Who's come in, and now probably that Amari DiMercato and the other guys are probably out of the question now. But what do you see of James Conner and Trey Benson? I'm having a hard time letting go of James Conner. Like, I just see, as long as he's healthy, he's going to be the guy. And trust me, I love Trey Benson, but I just don't know if he's going to get the work this season.
So even in a season where Connor was hurt last year quite a bit, he still ran for over 1,000 yards and put up 9 total touchdowns, 7 of them on the ground. So, I mean, this is very much James Connor's backfield, okay? And I'm not just saying that to tank Trey Benson prices so I get him cheaper, but it's James Connor's backfield. Now, look, he has not been the model of health. I think that's been, well, we've all known that. Every year he seems to.
Yeah, you can pretty much count on him missing 4 games. I think he's done 4 games each of the last 4 seasons he's missed.
Yeah, and so Trey Benson's going to have games, right? So it's we know that's going to happen. Plus, he's got the pass catching upside. So I love Trey Benson, and I love him for next year and beyond even more. But for this year, it's still Connor's backfield, and if he can play 13 of their 17 games, he's still going to put up 1,000 yards, and he's still going to put up 7-8 touchdowns.
Yep. I agree. I like Connor a lot. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's move over to the tight ends that we want to talk about here. And so if we're talking tight end values in rounds like 4 through 10, personally to me, Sam Laporta basically was off the board for me going into the dynasty startups that we did this offseason. He's just getting drafted too high. Like, he was going in the 3rd round of all these startups, and I love Laporta. I think he's a great player, but I mean, if you look at the numbers last year, yes, he was tight end 1 in most leagues, but if you go, I think I saw this written up, tight end 1 down to tight end 8 or 9 was the closest that it's been in like 10 years. Yeah. So you take Laporta's numbers all the way down to past. I know Njoku was like tight end 6, so you're probably talking. I don't know if Kittle was 7 or 8. He probably was higher. But you see what I'm saying? Like the top 8 tight ends last year, and you could even make it 9 or 10 because you got Brock Bowers now, and then Ferguson, I would say, was probably 10th. So those top 10 tight ends, to me at least, are all so close that from my perspective, I've just been waiting till the very end and grabbing the 8th, 9th, or 10th tight end.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, I guess it gets into your point setup and your format on the tight end premium where you want to invest your picks. I have a share of Laporta because we got him mid-3rd round. According to his ranking at the time, it was great value. I think what is he now, like 26-ish overall in Superflex?
Yeah, he's still somewhere in the middle of the 3rd round.
Yeah,
he's still tight end 1.
That was something that it was just taken because the value was there for me to take him. And in fact, I just put him on the trade block yesterday because I actually would like to, I don't know if you can down tier the tight end so much, but from where he is, but I'd like to down tier from that tight being the number 1 tight end and bring in some other pieces. Well,
absolutely. If you could do a Jake Ferguson plus a 1st and 2nd, I don't know what I'd want on top of Ferguson to get. I'd like to get rid of Laporta.
Yeah, I'd take a discount at tight end if I can bring in, a better wide receiver and get into like one of the top 20 receivers because I think our number 1 receiver on that league in particular is Tank Dell. So I definitely need to get some more firepower in my receiving room.
Yeah. And then Trey McBride to me was just pumped up too much. I do like Dalton Kincaid's possibility of being the tight end 1 this year, definitely, just because of the target distribution. They lost Stephon Diggs, and now they've got 3 slot receivers basically. Keon Coleman will be an outside guy, but you know what I'm saying. You got 3 unknowns along with the known of Dalton Kincaid. I could see just a monster target season from Kincaid, whereas McBride, he tore it up at the end of last season, but he didn't have Marvin Harrison there, and Harrison's definitely going to eat up a ton of targets. The same token there, they really just have Marv, and then it's McBride, and then a bunch of kind of meh guys,
Meh.
right, in Arizona. So I guess I was just wasn't buying into McBride. Do like
Well,
Kincaid,
let's
but
talk about some of those values though that you can find. Like you said, if you don't want to invest the capital it takes to get one of those top guys, I'm in total agreement with you. Where I think of those 3 or 4 that you just mentioned, Kincaid's probably got the best chance to be number one.
yeah,
I feel like Laporte is going to regress, and that even comes knowing that Kincaid's going to have to split some sort of snaps with Dawson Knox, because he's
sure,
still very athletic and does have that rapport with Josh Allen. So, but I still feel like Kincaid's the better bet there. But far as
yeah.
like some values out there, if you wait, excuse me, there's some younger guys, some guys that are, middle of the road career wise that I think you can get your hands on in that area. And one of which I'll mention in a little bit, that I'm extremely high on as a rookie. But there's also Chig Okunwo.
You can just go with Chig.
I would just call him Chig.
Chig is enough. Yes.
But you mentioned,
you got Chig.
Will Levis's stats early. I think Chig's one that could really pop this year because their receiver room is so thick.
Yes.
I mean,
and then your guy Ben Sinnott, of course, with Jaden Daniels coming in. I mean, who knows who's going to develop into his favorite target? You don't know yet until he starts playing, really, whether it'll be Terry McLaurin's, he gets a monster amount of the targets, or if he splits it up more and does distribute it around to Sinnott and Luke McCaffrey. Jahan Dotson maybe bounces back a little. So
think about this. Think about what Jaden Daniels did last year at LSU. Look at Malik Neighbors' touchdowns and look at Brian Thomas Jr.'s touchdowns. Right? 30.
Brian Thomas had more, didn't he?
Yeah. But between the two of them, it was over 30 touchdowns receiving, right? So Terry McLaurin to me is your Malik Neighbors, and then Ben Sinnott is more the Brian Thomas, just because he's the big body. Okay. I'm not saying they're going to run the similar routes, but when they get closer to
the target share goes.
Right. And that's where it is. Yeah. If you watch Ben Sinnott's tape, he can run the skinny post and the seam routes very well. He's big. He's athletic.
He's all over the place.
So I think I know Zach Ertz is there, and I know all the story, whatever. By the end of the year, Ben Sinnott is going to be a name that everybody knows.
Yes, Ben Sinnott definitely fits the mold of the new age tight end of the chess piece that you can move around and
but he can block
just
too.
Find the right matchup. They just want to get him on a linebacker and one-on-one essentially, and it'll open it up for him. Mm-hmm. So,
and for a young quarterback, he's a great safety valve.
For sure.
You mentioned K-Dot, and that's a guy I've got that I've got highlighted as well. He's going right around the same area as Chig. So,
he went just a round ahead of Chig in this redraft. Round 14 and 15. Then there's of course my deep sleeper in Tyler Conklin. Yep. I like Conklin for his ability to be completely mediocre. And
but for the price you pay for the production you can get, it's
look at his numbers. The last 3 seasons, the guy's been a like 15th or 16th in scoring at tight end, right? And he did it all on, I think it was 2 touchdowns last season. Now, if his touchdowns go up, I mean, you all remember Robert Tonyan being a top 5 tight end once with Aaron Rodgers, right?
Yes.
So
Bobby T.
If Conklin does get a boost in tight end in touchdowns, that'd be a huge steal. So if you do miss out early on tight end, like in this league, the tight ends were going a little earlier because of that full point tight end premium.
Right.
So the tight ends went earlier, and had I not been able to get Njoku there in round 7, Conklin would have been my fallback. I would have literally just waited and grabbed like Conklin and Kate Otten or Ben Sinnott or Chig. That would have been I would have just grabbed one probably and just played the waivers.
With a bad quarterback situation, Conklin still got 87 targets last year and he caught 61 of them. So he's hardly.
And who is Rodgers? Who is Rodgers throwing to? I mean, he's got Garrett Wilson, and then who?
Well, Mike Williams, but he's rarely healthy. And then you've got Malachi Corley, who I think the Jets see a lot of big things for, but he's raw as a route runner, so there's going to be hiccups there along the way. I mean, you've got what's that little guy that's so fast?
Gibson.
I'm sorry,
Xavier Gibson.
Yeah, Gibson. I mean, there's bodies in there, but yeah, like you said, who else is he throwing to outside of Garrett Wilson? Well, there's not. There's Garrett Wilson and his target share, and then there's everyone else because we just don't know. We just don't know. I would like to think that Malachi Corley's going after a few games, a few weeks in the league and playing. I would like to think his target share is going to naturally increase because of his abilities. But I mean, where else? Mike Williams is not getting a ton of targets. He's the deep guy. He stretches the defense. So he's going to get some, but I like Conklin there. And I mean, his numbers
for a guy like
7 targets.
Malachi Corley, for a guy like Malachi Corley, it really just comes down to earning the trust from Rodgers because he's going to see a lot of forced touches, the screens. He had a low ADOT in college, but that's because he's so big. He's a Deebo Samuel type player, and that's what they drafted him for. And you got to have some other threats on the field. And so if all he's got to do is earn Aaron Rodgers' trust from the beginning. I mean, and then we all saw what happened to Christian Watson his first season with Aaron Rodgers, right? His first target, wide open for a 75-yard bomb, and he drops it. And then he didn't see him at all for 7 weeks. I mean, Corley could do great in the offseason, in the preseason too. That's the thing. But we'll see early on. The Jets are going to be on TV. We're going to see plenty of Aaron Rodgers. And hey, it's good for the NFL if he comes back and is healthy. The guy's a great quarterback. I think he's a jerk, but he's a
polarizing figure. We can put it that way.
He's a polarizing figure. Yes,
I love.
And he's a very good player.
Okay? I love Aaron Rodgers. I think he's crazy. I think he's talented. I love how he walks around with a chip on his shoulder. Like that dude does not forgive and forget. He just remembers. And I think when you have a guy like Tom Brady, I think is a lot like that. He may not remember everything, but that killer, that when something, whether someone reminds you or something, the killer instinct that comes out, Aaron Rodgers has got it, just like Tom Brady had it. And I love that.
Yeah. And because of that killer instinct, I mean, the Jets do have a chance as a team that could,
they've got good pieces. They've got a decent defense. They've got weapons on offense. I mean, okay, so we're talking about the passing game, right? But they still have Breece Hall.
We haven't even talked about Breece Hall, right?
So the Jets, if Rodgers is healthy, that team's it's not bad. We saw what they did last year with Zach Wilson and who else chimed in there for some snaps.
Right. So their defense is definitely more than average. Their defense is rock solid. I mean, they should probably have a top 5 defense this year.
Hey, here's one tight end for you. And I know you talked about Justin Herbert's arm and, Greg Roman's offense, but someone that's familiar with Greg Roman's Hayden Hurst, and he's now a Charger.
Yes.
And he goes for almost nothing.
Right.
Almost nothing. Now, I know he's coming off an injury. And I know he's healthy, he's cleared, he's practicing, which is great. And he hasn't always been exciting, but he has been a wonderful streaming option in the past when he played with the Bengals and with the Ravens whenever Andrews was hurt. So he's a guy you can get late in the game who could have a lot of good like touchdown upside. And
Absolutely.
probably good for about five to six targets a game, which is not bad, especially if you're skipping out on tight ends till the last round.
Absolutely. I mean, Justin Herbert made Gerald Everett viable as a streaming option weekly, you know, and again, these targets have to go somewhere. And so, I mean, who knows? One of those guys, though, with the Chargers is going to be a breakout. I just feel it. I don't know who, whether it is Ladd or it's Josh Palmer. And again, I mentioned DJ Chark. He's ahead of Quentin Johnston on the depth chart. Quentin Johnston, if you can trade him for anything right now, if you're stuck with him on your roster in Dynasty, just get out now.
Yeah, I got out last year.
Yeah, I mean,
but I'll tell you this though: if you ride it, maybe just a couple more weeks or another week, you could hit a little bit bigger payday because Harbaugh has been doing all the good coach speak about Quentin Johnson, and so
I
think he's starting to trend up.
If he catches a touchdown in a preseason game, then there you go.
Trade him immediately to the Herbert owner.
Right. No, it just goes to show that the expectation level, you were talking Malachi Corley, the expectation level of these rookie wide receivers has definitely jumped up. And you can tell like right away now, these guys, and this was an awesome wide receiver rookie class, but if you were in on some of these rookie wide receivers this year and they don't produce this season, you need to get out. That is the trend right now. If they don't produce in their rookie season, the odds are like 95% that they will not produce going forward. Okay, sure, you still have a couple of examples of where they've turned it on after not producing in their first season, like DJ Chark did down in Jacksonville. But it's very, very few and far between where if a rookie wide receiver, and I think the threshold is just 625 yards. So somebody like JSN just got past it this past season. But I think the threshold that they go with is like 625 yards. If your rookie wide receiver does not hit that, dump him.
Yeah.
Right now. And of course, Quentin Johnson did not hit that last year. It doesn't matter that he was a first round pick. You look at go back, Jalen Reagor, Rashad Bateman right now. All this hype on Rashad Bateman. Dude, I named my team. At least I don't have Bateman. I got all the Ravens except Bateman.
As someone who's heavily invested in Zay Flowers, this Rashad Bateman talk is quite comical to me.
Absolutely.
It's
absolutely
great. Rashad Bateman's going to be your second option at receiver. Great. We all know where your targets are going. They're going to Andrews. They're going to Flowers. Stop it. He hasn't done anything. He has never done anything.
No.
So, yeah.
Bateman could stay healthy all 17 games this year and probably not get to 700 yards. So,
yeah.
You'd have to be in a super, super deep league for me to even want to roster Bateman.
How about that? I got a question for you on tight ends.
All right.
Now, this is unscripted, but of these, let's just say 4 tight ends, which way do you lean? We've got David Njoku, Jake Ferguson, Dalton Schultz, or Pete Freiermuth. Or Pat Freiermuth.
For Dynasty or redraft or just this 24 season, who scores the most?
Who do you want for this season?
For this season?
Yes.
I'll tell you, it's Jake Ferguson. I wanted Ferguson in this draft. because again, this draft, I drafted Lamar Jackson and then Dak in the second round, knowing that I probably wouldn't get Andrews because he would go too high, but I was hoping to land Ferguson later. And you can see he went in the sixth round, which was higher than I anticipated. But the thing with Ferguson is look at that Dallas offense and the target shares there. I mean, yes, CD could have just a monster season, over 200 targets possibly. But who else is there? There's Brandon Cooks, there's Ryan Flournoy, and Jalen Tolbert. I mean, come on. Those are the exact types of receivers we're talking about you avoid, right?
Right.
So, yes, Brandon Cooks had a decent second half to last season, but Jake Ferguson is just settling in. He's an awesome blocker. The staff trusts him. Dak trusts him. And so I just see Ferguson. I don't know that he's going to ever be a top 4 or 5 tight end, but it will just depend on how many touchdowns he gets. I mean, could the guy get 10 touchdowns in a season? Sure, it might happen once in the next year or two. And so I like Ferguson out of those, and it's just slightly over Njoku, but that's because, Njoku had a great season last year, but a lot of it happened with Joe Flacco throwing the ball. So I don't know what kind of chemistry Njoku and Watson have developed this offseason, whereas I know that Dak and Ferguson have some good chemistry going for them. So that's where I'm at. Dalton Schultz just has too much competition there. And who was the other one that you had mentioned? Freiermuth. Freiermuth is a guy who could jump up a little. And he's probably the number 2 target there, at least between the wide receivers and tight ends. But I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Warren has more targets than Freiermuth. But and again, they're 2 different offenses in Pittsburgh and Dallas. McCarthy is going to sling it as many times as he can, whereas Arthur Smith is not.
Right. Right. So you hit it there on the Njoku bit, that a lot of his production last year came under Flacco, and his production wasn't that great with Watson. So I'm with you on this one 100%. Jake Ferguson, I feel like, is the safer bet for around the same price as Njoku. I do like that. The thing that scares me with Freiermuth, and I know Arthur Smith likes him some tight ends. I mean, but the thing is which tight end will he like? Because when you have the super athletic, the de facto tight end you would probably want to throw through to in Kyle Pitts, you choose to put Jonnu Smith on the field for those routes. So there's just weird trust issues I have with Arthur Smith, and I know he likes tight ends, but I can't predict which one he's actually going to want to throw to, and I just can't draft Freiermuth. I just feel like I don't know. I feel like I couldn't do it, but Jake Ferguson, I couldn't agree more. I think is the better pick. In fact, if Flacco was still the starter though in Cleveland, it would be Njoku all day for me because he wants to pepper his tight end.
Right.
Especially when it's Njoku who can run over anything that gets in his way. Dude's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I did end up picking Njoku in this draft, and I am a little concerned with the Deshaun Watson, target share. But, at that point, Ingram had gone, Bowers, then Hawkinson. I just, I didn't want to be stuck with Dalton Schultz. Yeah. And so he was the last of the tier, and so I grabbed him. And hopefully Watson wises up. I mean, he is another year older. He's another year away, removed from the off the field crap that he went through. And so, maybe we'll see a new Deshaun Watson this year. The guy still has talent. You can't deny guys and their talent. I mean, look at Geno Smith, how many years it took him. But the guy at one point was a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Geno Smith, he was a first-round pick. Deshaun Watson at one point was, a top 3 quarterback in this league.
Yeah, he was a franchise quarterback, man.
Absolutely. So it still could be there. And I'm sure all of Cleveland is hoping that it is. But that's what we cling to at this time of year is hope, the great hopium. Every team's got a chance. That's why we're all excited this time of year. All right. Do you have anything else to add, Matt? Otherwise, we're gonna.
No, I will throw out another fun young tight end in Theo Johnson up in New York. Waller's retired. I think Theo Johnson has a really good path to snap share and then eventually target share. So we'll see.
And we were talking about Daniel Jones a little bit before the show. You know, how he could have a very good bounce back season. Everybody's down on him right now, but remember just 2 years ago, he was 10th in fantasy scoring.
He was a QB1.
Yes. And, you know, he just had a bad injury riddled season last year.
Yeah.
And the Giants have not given up on him. So he's their guy. Brian Dable says he's his guy. And now they have a super elite talent in Malik Neighbors there. So, yes, Theo Johnson is absolutely a great possibility there. I mean, he's basically free. So you're not losing anything by taking a chance on him.
While we're on the Giants and tight ends and running backs, I mean, you want to take a last round dart throw at Tyrone Tracy. There's another guy with absolute path to play time and targets. He's a pass catching, but wasn't he a converted receiver? In Tyrone Tracy, a converted receiver?
He played receiver for a couple of seasons at Iowa, then transferred to Purdue, and they shifted him to a running back at Purdue.
That's right. So from if you like pass catching upside like myself, you know, that's a guy you can get last pick of the draft.
Absolutely.
Well, for redraft. Let me say
for redraft.
Right. In Dynasty.
In Dynasty leagues, he was in Dynasty leagues, he was going in the third rounds of some leagues of the rookie drafts. People were on to him because they love that, as you said, that receiving upside there. So, and then with Devin Singletary there, I mean, yes, Singletary is just a solid, steady option, but I mean, he's odds are that he doesn't play 17 games because he's a running back. So at some point, somebody's going to have to come in and take some snaps. And, you know, as you said, Tracy's a guy who's got tons of talent. And so who knows if he comes in and he could take over the backfield. Because it's not like Singletary's somebody that the Giants have just locked down for 3-4 years. I mean, he's just a stopgap right now. So, all right. Well, we want to thank you for joining today. This was a great episode. Please check out our Patreon. You can check me out at clemke007_FF on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. And please leave your questions and comments below. If you have any thoughts on a running back or tight end that you are targeting and love this off season, go ahead and shoot that down. If you don't like any of our thoughts on some of these running backs or tight ends, go ahead and leave that down there too. We've got no problem with some constructive criticism. Heck, it doesn't even have to be constructive. All right. So once again, thank you for joining us today. Matt, thank you as always.
Hey man, enjoyed being here. Looking forward to doing that next roster review and really diving into some of the stuff that you and I love so much about fantasy.
All right. You guys enjoy your weekend. We'll see you again soon.